There are many women who had a major impact on the American Revolution, whether it's Betsy Ross, whether it's Flora MacDonald, whether it's the death of Jane McCree, or even as you see pictured here, the legend or the myth of Molly Pitcher. They've all had a major impact on the American Revolution, whether it's from a morale standpoint or whether it's just from a mythology standpoint. But what I want to talk about today is a figure who we really don't talk too much about. And it's not into the recent, maybe, this recent century, well, the century before, that you began to see her even recognized for her actions. What if I was to tell you that the Midnight Ride of Paul Revere was not the only ride that took place? We're so used to seeing images like this of Paul Revere running from door to door, telling everyone, hey, the redcoats are coming, the redcoats are coming. Of course, erroneously said the British are coming in town of Lexington Concord in hopes of getting the militia together to stop the British from, making their attack on the weapons and other items that are saved there. So we commonly know this guy. We know about Paul Revere. And we also know about the other couriers who went out and did the same thing in the same area. But there's someone who went even further than Paul Revere and even and on much more dangerous terrain than Revere did himself. And that person I'm talking about is pictured here, and that is Sybil Luddington. And I'll be honest, I didn't know too much about Sybil Luddington until I began to truly research this remarkable young lady and looked into her life. And she was very brave in what she did. In fact, when you consider that she was only 16 when she had her own ride, it's even more miraculous. But let me get into the reason why Luddington is important to the revolutionary cause. Sybil was the daughter of Colonel Henry Luddington and the eldest of 12 children. So being the oldest one, she has a lot of responsibilities, things that she has to do. Her father was the military commander of a militia that was kind of stationed out in New York. And the family was living in Fredericksburg, New York, which is pretty much across the river, across the way from Connecticut. And so the soldiers had, recently fought in battles, and they pretty much had gone home in the area to rest and relax. And so on April 26, 1777, a knock came at the door from a messenger from Danbury, Connecticut, again, which is right across from the river. And the messenger said, the British are burning down Danbury. We need your help. Now, the reason why Danbury was so important was because the Continental Army had literally just put in the area their munitions as well as some extra supplies in Danbury. So it was all the more important that Ludington's, militia come up, get together, and try to fend off the 2,000 something British troops that were marching on Danbury and burning down the city in hopes of stopping them from destroying the munitions. And so, according to Nancy B. Samuelson's Revolutionary Women in the Second Oldest Profession, Colonel Luddington really had no clue what to do. He had to stay home, he had to get prepared, he had to draw up battle plans, but he also needed to go out and to get the militia soldiers in order for them to come together and, in fact, help to save Danbury. And so it came to this lady right here, his daughter, Sybil, to rise up and pretty much volunteer to help her father out and to go and raise the militia. She rose to the occasion, being the oldest, is something that she's used to, rose to the occasion and volunteered pretty much to go and get the militia troops for her father. Donna Patton's Sybil Luddington, Teenage Patriot of the American Revolution, provides us a little bit more information into kind of what was said and how everything happened. And what Patton says was that, when Colonel Luddington was trying to figure out what to do, his daughter pretty much said, "Father, let me go," or "Let me go, Father." And after much deliberation, much thinking, much consideration, her father said, "Hey, you have to, you got it." And she went, she sat up her horse, which was named Star, and she rode out at 9 p.m. It's pretty late when you think about it. But she rode out in the rain, and it was wet and it was cold, for the purpose of gathering her father's militia in order to help her father prepare and go and attempt to save Danbury. Ludington went from door to door with a stick on her horse, shouting, um, "The British were burning Danbury. Muster at Ludington's," pretty much telling the militia soldiers, "Hey, we need you right now to protect Danbury." And she would wait until she saw a light come on at the house before she rode on and moved to the next area. She rode through many settlements, mustering the militia force, and she got approximately over 400 militiamen, and they all assembled at Ludington's, in time to go and try and march and save Danbury. Unfortunately, they were a little too late, and most of Danbury burnt, but they were able to get a lot of people out, and not a lot of casualties happened. And where the real victory came was a few days later at the Battle of Ridgefield, where they drove the British, led by, of course, by General Tryon, William Tryon, back to their ships, which were stationed at Long Island Sound. So while they did lose Danbury, they still were able to push back the British troops because Ludington was able to get these 400 men together to help her father out. All in all, by the end of her entire journey, she had ridden over 40 miles from 9 p.m. to approximately dawn the next morning. And she had ridden through areas where there really was not a lot of light, and her only means of protection was her stick. And the story goes that there were times where she would see, troops or British highwaymen coming through where she would have to hide behind the bushes or hide behind the trees and keep her horse quiet. Otherwise, something would happen. And even there was a story of her actually confronting a highwayman and actually pretty much using the stick to kind of push him away or push him off. Of course, this is a myth, and we don't necessarily know if that actually happened through the process, but we do know that she covered a large amount of mileage in order to muster up the troops for her father. After the Revolutionary War, Sybil would settle down. She would get married. She'd have a son. And she would literally live to be 77 years old. And she would actually be buried next to her father in Paterson, New Jersey. Um, in terms of how she's remembered today, the story about her ride is still circulating, but we also have this, which is a statue of her built, I believe, in 1930, 1960. I don't have the exact time, but 1960, and it was built in memorandum of her ride, and it's placed in Carmel, New York. In Carmel, there's also a 50K race that happens every year, and the routes in which they run are actually the route that Sybil herself used. Her trail in general is marked by different mile markers, and each one kind of has an aside about where she was, how she got there, and what she was able to do in that area. So as I said before, we all know about Paul Revere's ride, but we should also make sure that we kind of have an idea and remember the ride of Sybil Luddington. Not only because she was a 16-year-old girl in these tough, these dangerous situations, but because through her own raising, helping her father raise troops, they were able to push the British forces back in the Connecticut area, and this further help the Continental cause in the war. If you would like to learn more information about her, you can simply search for her. The articles on my abstract are also good. The websites are good as well. And these are places that you can go to if you want to learn more about Sybil Luddington. It was a pleasure and an honor to speak with you all, and a pleasure and honor to learn more about this remarkable young lady of the Revolutionary War. Thank you, and everybody be blessed.